Welcome back. You're watching Weekend Express. We now want to have a discussion about some of the events that took place in the week. And I'm joined by Javas Bigambo, a governance and political specialist. Thank you for joining us. We continue this discussion also with Dr. David Matsanga.
Yes.
Gentlemen, in this week we saw the Okoa Kenya move flop, as said by the IEBC, and there have been a lot of analysis of what next now for CORD in this quest to have the constitution reviewed, but it's now turned to become a fight against the IEBC. They now want the IEBC to be completely disbanded. What is the next move for CORD?
I think it is only the most short-sighted of persons who will argue for disbandment of IEBC in the name of getting a cure or permanent solution for the challenges that are bedeviling this country today. Well, of course, IEBC has made its verdict that the initiative by CORD faced such technicality or limitation, and not necessarily by virtue of interrogation of signatures, but by way of interrogation of enlisted or registered voters. And I think various options are at the disposal of CORD. One, they would possibly have wanted or would want to go to court to have this matter arbitrated at such corridors of power. That is one. Secondly, it could be for CORD to go back to the drawing board. While the question of the review of our constitution is an important exercise in our democratic engagement, it is not very urgent to the extent that if it's not done prior to the next election, then we are facing a constitutional death. So it's a question of the key players within CORD to go back to the drawing board. But most fundamentally, CORD must self-reflect, because what has come to the surface is that it is an occurrence of self-inflicted puncture that now is self-evident. CORD needs to interrogate itself and see where is it that it erred. But looking at the other player, that is the IEBC, you realize one thing, and by the example of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, I am not part of those who are necessarily emptily clamoring for the disbandment of IEBC. Because with the example of Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, how many times have we changed the players, the commissioners? And the limitation remains the same. The willingness of the commission itself to pursue its legal mandate, and of course there is also the political implication that comes into play. Changing the IEBC commissioners is important for obvious reasons, but it's not the solution that must be sought. Changing the commissioners must not be an end in itself. It must be a means to the end that we seek, to have institutions in this country live up to the true meaning of the word and letter of the pieces of legislation that have put them in place.
And Dr. when this came out, the CORD officials appeared as shocked as the rest of the country with what we were seeing there, signatures, some that were really almost ridiculous.
Let me be very honest and be on the record. On this same program, I was one of the first few people. I have been a critic of some of the policies of the Right Honorable Prime Minister. But on this one, if you read the Okoa questions and the referendum, the whole of it, it has some sensible things that this country could have done. As anybody who has read the Constitution, constitutionalism would say. One, I said here on this program that IEBC, why did it take long not to tell CORD to bring a soft copy? It is on record. People who want to go back and look at this. I said that's wrong. You have a whole department of public relations in the IEBC. Why does it take you the whole year to announce and say, when you bring hard copy, also bring soft copy? That's where things started raining on us. We kept quiet. People did not listen. I agree today with my friend here. I'm not going to spoil my day of resurrection of Jesus Christ, because he has resurrected everywhere that I wanted. It is only less.
We don't know what that means, but
less sighted people who would be calling for reforms instead of looking for symptoms. The symptom here is the law. The law surrounding the referendum is very quiet, very silent on procedure. You could see it. Look at Alachi, Senator Elachi and Gladys.
Wanga.
They were hammering each other on
they're on a show here.
On a show in KTN.
Yes.
The law, it goes back, the MPs should sit again before they depart, so that they don't put this country into chaos. Look at that law surrounding the referendum. What does it say? What does IEBC say? It has to do. The word verification is silent on whether you can go and look at the glasses or this phone. What does it really want you to look at?
And yeah, she posed very good questions.
Wait.
Like, do they now go back and look for the about 100,000 signatures remaining?
This is already, it has taught us a lesson that there is something which is not very straightforward on as far as the referendum is concerned. To avoid any future mishaps, the members of parliament should come back and look at the law, not to say we want to finish IEBC. Let's look at the law, just as corruption. Again, you have got it. Corruption.
I always get it.
Yeah, you get it. That's why you're a nice student. You're coming up, a very good student of senior people like us. Let's get this.
Right.
Yeah, he's a good one today. He's very bright. Because look at what he has done. He has said, let's fundamentally look at what is the problem. And the problem with, just as corruption, it is the same problem. Look at the law surrounding referendum. Change it now. And say, once you bring your verification of the name, also let it, the law state categorically that you also bring your signature, which is on your ID. It goes back to so many things. Right. Does your ID have signature? Does it?
Mine does.
Yes. So when you bring there, they do this, they see. Because look at the code drama. But there are pictures, there are more pictures. So someone has signature of a picture of an animal.
But you
surely,
let's bring in
but it's a grey area in law.
Yes.
If you remember the case in 2008 of Kabogo versus Gaduo, you realize that in the argument in court, the issue of the nature of the signature does not arise because the law does not provide for it.
Yes.
Now, if we look at, even as the IBC has tried to explain, if we were to define even verification itself by way of the 10th edition of Black's Law Dictionary, or even Oxford Dictionary itself, to verify, of course, is to seek to authenticate, is to seek to see the matter clarity.
Yes.
So in the event that the picture of an animal is actually what is your legitimate signature, then you have verified that.
Can you say the picture of the animal is a signature which is on your ID?
But you see, the thing is let's face it.
We went wrong.
Let's face it. Even as we sit here, there is no law that provides, for example, that I must have one number of, just a single signature.
No.
There's no law that provides for that. And there's no law that defines the kind of signature that any person must have.
No.
So you see,
so even an animal has got it.
If that is your yours,
then
what IBC brought out clear is that when they conducted the verification, they were looking specifically at registered voters at those various stations. And that was unmatched by what the Okoa Kenya Signature Initiative had brought to them. Much more than that, of course, it is evident to any critical person who is very objective that there was fraud in the exercise of the signatures that were brought to
the collection of the signatures, right?
There is a challenge there, and that's why I said, beyond code, raising or pointing fingers, it must also self-search.
Exactly. In fact, today, that's why I'm not disagreeing with you. I am happy with what you have said. Your analysis is just mine. I can't add more. Let's not point fingers. Let's go beyond and bring MPs, ask them to look at that law.
Now, while we are saying that that is something that must be done, it must not escape our attention that the changing or the necessity of changing the commissioners for their limitations
Yes.
Right.
must not come a crop.
No, even if you change the commission when the,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
the thing
this.
is rotten.
You see, the thing is this.
Because
When
that's
the
an
law-
important part of
Yes.
that entire quest to
Yes.
have the constitution
Yes.
changed. I think
yes,
that's the question
and the thing is
here.
this, yes. And I do not want to tie the issue of the quest to change the commissioners,
Yes.
to tie it to the issue of the referendum.
Exactly.
What we must seek here is to grant or to afford integrity
Yes.
to institutions,
Yes.
an integrity that is due to them
Right. Yes.
by way of law.
Right.
Structural challenges,
Right.
let me now teach here. Structural challenges are the ones that have caused Kenya a problem. Even if you change the commissioners without saying, taking Javas's view, we shall have the same problem.
That is-
I agree with him on the change of, just to call for this man who, what are they? Letangule and so on to go,
commissioners.
does not help the electoral system of this country. Let's go back to
will be a
parliament
bandage- a
and
bandage
the
sort of a movement.
Yes,
Yes.
move very good amendments that will safeguard any valve that is going to pump out hatred. That is what any intellectual capacity, a community and citizens of the world would do.
And much more than
Right,
that,
right.
the thing is this. The Constitution of Kenya 2010 has donated the entire chapter 15 of the Constitution on matters of constitutional commissions. What the IBC commissioners need to come alive to
Right.
is what is the object of constitutional commissions as enshrined in the Constitution. If you look at it, you realize that IBC has come to a very evident limitation when it comes to the preservation of sovereignty, the rights, constitutional fundamental of the people. Now, the thing is this. Let us go back to the drawing board. Fact, IBC has let Kenya and Kenyans down, regardless of the kind of divide where you belong to. IBC and its commissioners, people need to start asking questions. To what extent have they satisfied us as a nation?
Right.
And then how do we move to restore the desired integrity and objectivity of that great institution?
Right.
Because, let me tell you one thing. The IBC is actually the Cartesian plane on which the democracy of Kenya is anchored, where people will either have trust or otherwise over democratic processes. And going by the evidence of even just the recent 2 by-elections, it tells you one thing, that it is now beyond us calling for the IBC to pull up its socks. Because IBC has demonstrated that it has no socks and no shoes. And that's why we need now to have new entrants into that office. But not just entrants who will come here and be puppets to political
Right,
patronage.
right.
We want people who will pay homage to the law and fidelity to that law for which that commission is established.
Right. And should Kenyans ask themselves this question that you posed, they should ask, has the commission really, worked to satisfy
How can
them
the
to a
commission-
level of, integrity that is satisfactory to the electorate? And should the answer be no, let's say it has no socks and no shoes
It
at
has
all.
tried.
Then what is the next step?
It
And
has
is-
tried.
do we
No, yes,
depend on the
yes,
opposition
Javas,
to
let me-
move
you
to
have-
make
you
this
have-
call?
You have hit your nail. Let me also hit my nail here. Javas says just pointing fingers at commissioners and changing is bad. Look at this. It points whether we go east, west, Sharon, we waste 2 hours on this set here. It's going to remain the same. Let's go back and revisit the law that surrounds the IEBC, the creation of IEBC, give them straightforward powers on what to do, not what to do. Look at the newspaper. The Chief Justice today,
Do they not have the powers to
yes,
do and not
the
to do what they're
custodian
supposed to?
of the law in this country, the judiciary, the Chief Justice, is lamenting about punishing political crimes at the ballot. Is here. Why? Because the law ties even the IEBC. The people who are clamoring for dismantling of IBC today are the same people 4 years ago who did not want Ruto to talk about faults in this constitution. You remember, okay, Africans, we forget so easily. We can't even eat what we ate last time when it was poison. And that is the problem, the danger we have. Not only here in Uganda, everywhere. People forget. Ruto was saying there are certain elements in this constitution which must be looked at, which will haunt us. And today, he's alive. He's the deputy president. It has come to pass. And the people rejected, they even castigated him. These are the few points that Kenyans must learn from history, that the same Kenyans who were at it, who were even very happy, they went for ceremony dancing, wanted this constitution. It is here. It is time for this constitution to be reviewed. That's why I'm telling you, Okoa's suggestions were not very bad, including giving the president some powers to tackle people like those who steal 800 million. The president here is powerless by this constitution. And you are condemning Kenyatta every day for this constitution which you put on him. Even if it was Raila working here, being the president, I'm telling you, he would not have functioned with this type of constitution.
But I guess let's
go back and look at it. Ruto told you in 2010 that this thing is going to be bad. People refused.
I think the question now, Daktari, is the constitution of the commission as it is, because there have been questions to how non-partisan they are.
Look at the Tangule. The Tangule gives a verdict to a Tangula. What has the court? Let's go there. You want to discuss this. This Wetangule says we have nothing in our hands to hold on to victimize this guy, because there is something wrong around the law that is governing election. You are an expert in governance.
He was not convicted.
No, look here. If you are not convicted, if the court says you bribed the people, then you end up, you say, even if I bribed, I was not convicted by what?
There is the gray area.
Tell us.
There's the gray
That's
area.
exactly. I want the gray area to be looked at.
Yes. And
I'm just suggesting for you.
If I were to borrow a line from Oluwole,
Yes.
Babatunde Soyinka,
Yes.
popularly known as Wole Soyinka in his poem Night.
The man who wrote The Lion and the Jewel, because our students must understand.
I would say that, and in quoting, I have no heart mercury like the clouds to bear the exacerbation, and my words here, of this sham and fiasco of, one, our democracy that is nascent, two, the kind of lazy intellectuals that we have in this country.
Yes.
When all these issues are coming to the play of the nation, the people who have been left to deliberate and discourse on this matter are the political players on the two sides of the divide. Even our key institutions on matters, democracy, governance, politics, and law have kept themselves to the backwaters.
Exactly.
The sham and the drudgery of the intellectuals in this country. And in fact, I think it is glorifying them to say intellectuals, because what we are having is intellect without intellectualism.
I think we better say we, including him, because he is also an intellectual,
because
an expert on governance.
Very few of us have got the courage to rise and speak to the issues
like you are
that
doing
we are facing today.
You have done very well.
And I'll tell you for a fact. I'll tell you for a fact. One, that the issue of the gray areas in law is something that must be faced in a warriorsome approach. And moving forward, it's not a question of now castigating left, right, and center. Yes, we have got the chapter 15 of the Constitution that provides from Article 248 on the Constitution, constitutional commissions and independent officers. Yes, we have seen what they have tried to do. In fact, if we were to carry out an audit of the constitutional commissions in this country, all of them have performed below average.
Yes.
From the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, and its twin, the National Gender and Equality Commission, all these commissions, the Parliamentary Service Commission, all this, the Teacher Service Commission.
Yes.
All these commissions.
The Constitutional Commission. Yes. The one of Charles Nyachai, my friend.
All of them. The CIC, the defunct now.
Yes.
All of them have underperformed.
There's another one of devolution.
Yes. And all these things, I will tell you for a fact that the limitations they are facing, one, is not necessarily a limitation in law alone, much as there are legal limitations that are evident. But if at all these commissions were only to exercise that which has been donated to them by law, one, by the Constitution, two, by the necessary facilitating pieces of legislation that now establishes them. For example, the IEBC Act, the Kenya National Commission and Human Rights Act, etc., all this. If they were to live up to the spirit of those pieces of legislation, then we would see a functionalism of those commissions. When we look at the growth of our democracy, after the Constitution of Kenya 2010 has been embraced, and the supremacy, look at it from Article 1 of the Constitution, Article 2, etc. How each of us has got the power, the responsibility to rise and defend this Constitution. And knowing too, opposed to my good friend Matsanga, who says that the president's hands are tied and that is limited by way of the laws that we have.
Of course.
I will tell you this for a fact.
Yes.
When the president took oath of office to defend and protect this Constitution, he knew what he was rising and he was signing up for.
Yes.
He knew that by way of execution and being the watchdog #1 of this Constitution, the democracy of this country will come alive.
So you want the president to also break the law? No. Wait.
Secondly,
because you are saying he took oath to protect
when
the law.
When I look at
Constitution of
when I look at Article 248, these commissions are independent and not subject to direction from anyone, not even the president.
Yes. So what do you want him to do?
No, that's what I'm saying. We cannot say that the president, even if it's a question of fighting corruption, for example, if it's a question of fighting corruption, and we are very keen, this coming week the president is supposed to address the nation, right?
I hope he has another list.
Yes, and I hope that the president, beyond having lists,
no, let's have another list, and this time
because we don't want to
go
have
and arrest some people.
Okay. We don't want to have a president of lists.
Yes.
We want to have a president that goes beyond lists. He can, and it is not in fact in his place.
Sharon,
for example, you remember the ruling by Justice Odunga.
Sharon, let's see. Justice Odunga don't even speak here about Justice Odunga, because Justice Odunga,
he is the Lord Denning of our time.
You know, he has blocked everything.
All right, before we drift,
he has blocked everything that went to.
I want both of you to give me your opinion on this before we move on to the next issue coming off of the week. Do you think the IEBC is credible enough to conduct next year's general elections, just 17 months away? If not, what next? Briefly and to the point, what do you think?
If we have to speak the truth that is objective, to which we must owe to our intellectual existence, the IEBC and its performance has fallen short of the expectation of our democracy. And one is that we need to have a change of the players as an interim measure. But more than that, we need to see how we can have commissioners that pay fidelity to the law and the objects of the establishment. Much more than that, I think our politicians too, from both sides of the divide, must grow a backbone and realize that they need not interfere with independent commissions and commissioners. Because either way, look at it this way, and we must be objective. If CORD and its supporters were to have its way and dictate how even commissioners have to execute their work, that is interfering with the independence of the commission. If the government of the day were to want to impose its wishes and whims on how the commissioners should execute their mandate, that is interfering with the independence of the commissioners and the commission. We need to have leaders and a leadership that has got a backbone to appreciate that the buck stops with the commissions to execute their duties.
Let me tell you, this IEBC has tried. What has failed the IEBC are the institutions, structural institutions. And my friend here does governance. Structural institutions does not mean only to have very good people who go to church.
So it has tried. Does it mean it can conduct next year's?
Exactly. Under the circumstances it has conducted itself to the level where any electoral body would do. Let me tell you why.
You really want to stand with that?
Oh yes, I will stand with that, because you look at your law. You have, how many people do you want to choose in a day? How many? You are a governance expert. Tell the world. You have over 7 people. No, wait.
The issue is not
boss,
the
you talked when I was quiet. And I'm now teaching you.
All right. Structural hindrances, you say.
There are the structural obstacles. We must look at what makes the IEBC not work. One of them is that you have heaped election on the same day of too many candidates up to the MCA. That becomes a fatigue. You know it in English language, and you know what fatigue evaluation is. Go and do a fatigue evaluation of IEBC. Don't condemn them only. Why doesn't the Kenyan Parliament do the change the dates? If you are electing a president today, elect MPs That is how some people do. Elect MCAs on another day. But surely, you are blaming this IEBC. The laws limit them to, they have, our voter, that ballot is long like this.
Okay, so you've noted what's your way forward with this structural problems that you talk about?
As a regime change. This is the word I don't want to leave this studio without saying. Some of the opposition leaders and some people in this country want to use this as a regime change tactic. We have seen it coming. I shouted this 3 years ago, that the people are using the Ukrainian style of operation. There's politics. If you look at what Mr. D something is writing, it's also a political move of a regime change.
Okay,
we know this. But
we have to move forward.
Let's be very honest. For me, I stand on one thing. They have tried. We need to go back.
Sometimes trying is
not good enough,
to go back, especially when you're a national institution.
Let's help them, Sharon. Yeah. Let's help them like this, changing some laws that tie them.
Daktari, if we say everyone that is
alone, Dr. Matanga,
is not going to
do we want everyone that has been mandated to conduct a particular task for the country to only be tried? I'll take the last comment. We need to move forward.
Why don't we go like this? You look at immigration. We used to cry about immigration. Wait first, my brother. Wait.
Very briefly, because we need to move
We used to cry about immigration. Is there any problem about immigration today? Wait, answer yes or no.
We are looking at the problem.
We have put there a right person. We went and cleaned. People cleaned that section. Today, your passport comes in 3-4 days.
Dr.
You
Matanga.
don't even line up at the Nyayo house. Why don't we look at the law that
so the IBC also needs a similar kind of cleaning?
A restructuring.
Isn't that? Are we not talking about the same
law?
Dr. Matanga.
Right, finally.
I think I need to bring you, and we need to come alive to the history of our times.
Yes.
If we were to look at even, for example, one of the historical mind-pricking poem by Pastor Niemöller of Nazi Germany.
Yes.
You remember how he said?
Yes.
When they came for the communists, I did not speak because I was not a communist. When they came for the trade unionists,
and they came
I did not speak because I was not a trade unionist. And finally, when they came for me, there was no one else to speak for me. The kind of commission that we want is a kind of commission that will execute his mandate, regardless of who is in government or who is in opposition.
Yes. That's okay.
And
I agree with you.
that is an arbitrator par excellence.
Yes.
Today, and we've given even this living example, whether you want to go to the UK or the US, the issue of commissioners does not matter because of the foolproof system here. And I agree with you when you say that we need structural things and change.
There's something wrong there.
When we talk about that, there can be no structures without those who man those structures.
Yes.
And when you say those who man those structures are the commissioners.
Yes.
Now, the structure is the problem, but also those who man the structures are the problem. They have demonstrated that they are open to limitations themselves. More than that, they, by way of the example of the Malindi by-election alone, and how itself, just those 2 by-elections, the IBC's website hung by 8:30 p.m.
Hung?
Yes, it did hang.
Or somebody hacked it?
No, it did hang.
Yes.
Much more than that, there was delay.
It's a technical,
unexplained and reasonable delay of remitting of results from a constituency.
Yes.
Only 2 by-elections.
Those are structural.
Okay. I'm telling you.
We have to move on.
Sharon, those are structural challenges that if we change the law and say if we for example, polling stations start in the morning at 7, quick, then they stop at what, 5? Is it 5 o'clock? And by 5 o'clock you find a longer queue. The government, the MPs should look at even the days when, how many days can we vote? 2 or 3?
No.
In some countries, in some countries, people vote for 3 days.
It's those countries that are still behind.
We're in the
21st century.
We have we have to agree to disagree on this matter.
In Britain, you said your vote by...
Let's move forward.
Okay, fine. We need to discuss this.
Yes, let's move forward. We agreed to disagree. The question is whether structural changes involve the people manning the structure or not. All right. Let's talk about the crude oil pipeline deal that was supposed that we thought was actually a done deal. Kenya thought was a done deal.
Can I come first?
Yes, please.
Yes. Let me beg you to come first. And I want to be candid. I have told people in this country, on this television and the other places, that anywhere where the French step, there is disaster. Biafran war. Some people who write, they don't even know how Ojukwu and Gowon went to war. It's the oil, Shell, BP, and Total. I have told people here, at times some of them think I'm just a madman. I've told people that when you hear of the French, be very careful. As they step, don't step. This pipeline, this lap set, was very straightforward. When we said the lap set from Lamu up to Hoima, people knew it would pass through a tough terrain. But beyond that, the French Total company knew something more than we did, that there would be insecurity. You see that where I warn the people about this French policy. I'm glad that the president is going there. If he doesn't sort this, it is all linked to ICC also, that there will be insecurity in northern corridor of Kenya. How did they know? Have they planted insecurity there? The Baringo Triangle, Pokot, but there is something that has been going on there. Is it natural that 1,700 NGOs, French-sponsored, are within that area? So what is it that they know we don't know? Now look at the tactics that they are playing. I've been telling people that Burundi is a proxy war. Proxy. They are using Burundi as a background to fight someone. But they don't want to tell us who that person they want to fight. Some of us know the person they want to fight.
So
now,
according to you, they are going to plant some sort of insecurity in the northern corridor?
They have done. They
as
know.
Pinning it, connecting this to the ICC?
You saw the report of Total, why it is rejecting the usage of northern lap set. It says, it is in black and white. They have said they are not sure of the security situation in that area. Now, Tanga and Hoima and Mwanza, what they have done is played international diplomacy on us, a coup. They have gone to Mangafulu and told Mr. Mangafulu that, you know, this area of Kenya, and they have weighed the differences between Tanzania and Kenya. So they go there and they say we shall pay for the oil. They go to President Museveni. Now I'm talking as a Ugandan. And I have nothing to fear about this. I warn the people about this could come as a change. Right. Museveni would change, would see, because he's seeing the truth. He wants the quicker way of that oil getting out. Now, I warn the people here that be careful. The French will come and divide this piece that we have. And they have done it exactly.
All right.
How do you think we are going to narrow down the differences between Uganda and Kenya over if the pipeline goes through Tanzania? And yet Tanzania is not even talking very nicely about some of the East African community things. It is something that we must be careful about. The French. Everywhere there where they have stepped in their territories, there is a conflict, there is fighting, there is what?
The question then
please
would be then,
careful.
Were they not part of the deal when this was made initially, and then why now? What are we not
The
doing
problem here, again, so that I leave him to speak. The problem here, you did not give them anything. And you know, people fear to...
were they to be given?
There's Gamia. What is this thing? Gamia 1, Gamia 2, Gamia 3. You did not.
Or the oil wells.
And they will look for a policy. They are annoyed. And the people, Madam Amina knows, I speak my mind over this all the time. I don't care. Because I don't need anything to go there. I don't.
All right, let me move to Javas, because our time is really
the thing is this,
running out. Yeah.
We know the kind of threat that the European Union is facing today. And we know very well that by June this year, Britain will be voting, the United Kingdom will be voting as to its continued membership to the European Union.
Yes.
And we also are aware that there has been consistent and sustained effort to try and put together the East African community. That community still remains, a challenge, because the various realization things that were to be realized even up to now haven't been realized yet. The recent challenge that we are facing with the Matters pipeline is yet another blow to the realization of the East African community dream. And much more than that, I'll tell you this. Uganda is our biggest trade partner in the region.
Right.
And we in matters export, I think they do close to 11%, while Tanzania does close to 10.5%, etc. Then you go on like that, the UK, the US, with the various diminishing percentages. Now, we know very well that Kenya has been at odds with Tanzania for some time, and putting everything into historical perspective, from the days of the founding fathers, Mwalimu Nyerere and our very own Jomo Kenyatta, you realize that there are some political and economic issues that have not been ironed or polished yet. That because of that, even the East African community's dream may not necessarily be realized until all these things are sorted out. When you look at the LAPSET project and the kind of route that pipeline were to take through Kenya to the northern corridor all the way, and from Tanzania all the way to Uganda, you realize that the Tanzanian route is longer.
Yes.
The Kenyan route is shorter.
It's shorter.
It's shorter. And there are billions of shillings that would be saved if the Kenyan route were to be used. Now, of course, we know very well that security in the northern hemisphere of this country has remained a challenge. And this government needs, and every other government even to come, need to look how to sort out that challenge over there. It should not be something that we need to be sustained until the second coming.
Right.
Now, as a matter of fact, we know very well that our very able government, starting with the government of Mheshimiwa Mwai Kibaki, to now the one of Uhuru Kenyatta, they put up a very, magnificent diplomatic firepower and convinced the entire African Union on the Kenyan situation at the ICC, and the African Union was swayed and bought the position of Kenya. It has baffled many, I'm sure even to the high heavens, how our very own president has failed to convince only one man, Museveni, that you see, we need to stick to the pact.
Right.
It is going on.
It's okay.
That's why we are discussing.
Yes, the thing is this. The president, in very few speeches, convinced the heads of states of the African Union. The president invited Museveni over here, and Museveni left not convinced on how the deal should go on. The thing is this. We have seen the recent efforts and even the poking of the eyes of the Kenyan leadership by the leadership and the government of Tanzania, the Tanga issue with Ketere, etc.
Right.
I'll tell you this, we need the peers of this East African region to respect each other. Very fundamental, if at all the East African dream has to be realized.
Right.
Much more than that, we need to see how figures come into discussion in a very authentic way, because one thing also that has kept away Museveni and the Ugandan government is the silent costs, high costs in this entire project. Because if you're to do the math, the arithmetic in a very actual way, it is cheaper, commonsensical to have this route of Kenya to Uganda.
And this is what the technical teams have been left out.
And the trouble is that too many people have lined themselves up to eat.
To eating.
Yes. Yeah, that is the problem.
It becomes a discussion of how much am I
that in the end I can assure you that it would seem cheaper to go the Tanzanian route than going the Kenyan route because the cost will double.
Right.
So
there are less amounts
another
to feed.
point that he has raised
Finally,
on ICC.
I want us to talk about ICC because we have 1 minute left.
Yes, since he has brought in ICC, I want to tell Kenyans that the ICC is funded, 3/4 of the funding comes from the French. So I don't know how you link this later, because you are sober mind. Mine is radical on towards some of the imperial powers against them. The ICC is funded 3/4 of the money by the French. It is the French that calls the day. French through Kofi Annan Foundation. And I want to be very candid here, that the government, the president, everybody here, Kofi Annan has never liked these two guys. Has never liked Uhuru, has never liked Ruto. Kofi Annan is fighting at the highest level in international ICC, because I follow everything he does, including his tickets where he's traveling. I know what is going on.
So what is his fight exactly?
Yeah, honestly.
What is his,
what can he do to me?
What is
because I
fighting?
have the powers as a person to investigate. Kofi Annan does not like the two men. Kofi Annan prefers a certain section of people in this country. What he has done now, quickly, because he's a French puppet anyway, he's #1 French puppet. Kofi Annan Foundation is funded, 3/4 of the money comes from France. That goes on to destabilize most of African countries. We know that. It's on record. Security. So it's international wires that you cannot stop me from getting access to. Two, it is the Kofi Annan Foundation in ICC that is now pushing for dismembering of this country. These cases of ICC collapsed because of poor investigations of, again, the Kofi Annan Foundation and its hand in the investigations in Kenya.
All right,
now he has moved at international level. Wait, at international level.
We really don't have time that time.
He is hitting, telling the ICC, my credibility is gone, gentlemen and ladies. For two, if this thing, everybody in Kenya goes free, I'm finished. I cannot go anywhere.
Following up on that,
yes.
Would this then sway the ruling that we expected on the 5th of April?
I'm telling you.
Will the two have a case
for
to answer?
Matsanga, there are certain things I don't want to tell you. I'll tell you off camera. The ICC is a very dangerous regime change tactic that was deployed on Uhuru Kenyatta government that wants to dismember this state. The ruling on 5th, yes, wait, we know people who go there. Do you know them? I know them. I know who is talking to us. Fetu
So in your words,
I know Besuda's contacts in this country.
So in your words, Daktari,
I know what is going on.
The institution is aligned already to make an unfavorable ruling.
Let's do this as Africans. Let's pray. You know this guy touched of AU condemning ICC. Why?
Okay, I want to bring in Javas
you
at this point,
had a problem with me over that, but let me tell you.
Daktari, we have to bring in Javas now.
The final thing that I'm saying about ICC, Kenyans, this is a very bad institution. I wish Mutunga had created a special division of the High Court to redempt all this.
Right.
But he's leaving in 2 months. It's a sorry state for us.
Daktari, we have to really
regime change.
Seriously.
It has regime change.
I think, well, of course, we know very well that there have been various issues with the ICC, but we must not stick to the narrative that the ICC has been all about regime change, because when it all commenced, Uhuru Kenyatta was not in power as president. So it's not about regime change here. Now, the thing is this. I think African nations have raised fundamental questions about the approach and the processes of the African Union, I mean rather of the ICC. We have seen this past week how various guys have been sentenced, you know, by the ICC. What we need is, as a court of complementarity, we need a justice mechanism that serves where local instruments or local justice processes have failed, or where there is no sufficient political goodwill and institutional power to handle such things. And what we need to see is that such court needs to carry out or exercise its mandate in a manner that is objective, that exercises its power to the satisfaction of the global community. That is expected. That was the initial need. And maybe we need to have a way that the United Nations should possibly encourage all nations to be signatories to the Rome Statute.
Right.
That would make sense.
Right. Perhaps lastly,
more than that, lastly, 5th April, incidentally, my birthday itself.
Right.
I hope it brings some good news.
Depending what good news will be in this case.
We are going to have,
for me,
we are going to have the ruling.
A celebration.
One thing is that we are seeing that the ICC has permitted that you know, the indicted
they can be absent.
Do not necessarily have to be there. There are various narratives that are emerging as to whether it's an off-the-hook kind of verdict that will come out. That will leave to the judges.
Right.
But I think we know very well that the ruling, whichever way it goes, will affect the politics of 2017 in this country. And Some, it will be a question of, adding gasoline to the politics. To others, it will have stolen the thunder from their politics, etc. And that's what is expected.
Do you think their defense teams managed to poke holes into the prosecution?
The holes were poked.
Sufficiently.
But also, sufficiently so. But also then with what we haven't spoken to is the weight possibly of the redacted evidence.
I'm told we have to finish our time.
Let me say one thing.
5 minutes past our time.
Just 20 seconds.
So,
the defense, there was no, first of all, there was no case.
Okay, 10 seconds to you.
There was no, let me say this, Javas. If I were there was no case to take, for no case to answer. Do you know why? The case had already collapsed.
We have got
like
cases
the Kenyatta
to answer.
case. The
All right,
Kenyatta case had
gentlemen,
already
we have to
collapsed.
finish.
But the defense did very well.
All right.
We shall have the day.
Okay.
If we don't, I will still. I'll go on.
We'll see how that will
go.
go. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
With
Always
the
a
French,
pleasure to have you.
I will fight the French up to the end.
Right. We shall leave Daktari fighting the French. It is at that point that we finish today's discussion. Thank you very much. Again, let's do this next week, inshallah. So that's where we end this day's edition of Weekend Express. Thank you so much for watching and enjoy the rest of your Easter holiday.